Yo, this is your favorite friendly neighborhood Toronto, and it's a nice sunny day out right now. I'm in a good mood, and I'm hoping you guys are doing well. Today, we're going to be talking about why the SSDs are a big deal in the next generation consoles, and why PlayStation 5's implementation of their SSD architecture is pushing the industry forward. This subject sometimes seems to rub people the wrong way for some reason, but there's nothing personal here. There's only facts. So, fanboys on both sides, please don't twist these arguments into anything more or less than what they actually are. So, with that said, let's get into it. Now, for the last two generations of consoles on the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, the PS3, and the PS4, they all used hard drive to store game data on. This became the norm after the PS2 and the OG Xbox, as world games just got bigger and more assets were needed to be displayed on the screen. Now, to do this effectively, loading the data from the game disc was no longer feasible, as it takes too long to get the information that is needed. This delay of information could cause things like pop-in textures or textures that just don't load up at all. So if you were ever driving in GTA and then the road disappeared from right underneath your vehicle, the road texture is not loading into memory fast enough could have been the cause of it. Now, bringing the inclusion of physical hard drive disk, this was the solution that the industry was needed to mitigate these problems, as data transfer from the HDDs was significantly faster than routing the data from the game disk. Now, these physical hard drive disks are a type of mechanical drive, meaning that they use a physical disk, and they're known as platters that are inside that spin really fast, and there's a needle head that is used to read and write the data from the sections on the platter. This operation is something just like a vinyl record, where audio for a song is stored on different sections for the vinyl. So as game developers started to build more ambitious games that are both more complex and larger in scale, with higher resolution assets and higher frame rates, HDDs have become a huge obstacle now. Currently, hard drive disks in the consoles can theoretically transfer about 100 megabytes per second, but with some of these games reaching over 100 gigabytes in size, these game worlds are just streaming a large amount of data to the RAM and the GPU that these hard drive disks are just no longer able to keep up with effectively. And then this is where we're going to insert the SSDs, which are just the solid state drives. These storage devices don't use physical media like the platters used in the HDDs, but they transfer data through a solid state circuitry, allowing for significantly larger amounts of data to be sent. Fortunately for us gamers, both the Series X and the PS5 will feature custom SSDs in their consoles, making that a standard moving forward. Now, this is a huge shift and will even benefit the PC master race gamers in the long run. The SSDs, along with the CPU, which honestly haven't been getting enough attention, are going to help push the game development forward. No matter where you're playing, you're going to see games that just weren't possible before, along with the possibility of higher frame rates and higher resolutions. I know talking about the storage isn't as sexy as it is talking about the GPU and that stupid and misunderstood T-flop metric that no one even knew or cared about until Microsoft's smart marketing for the 6 teraflop Xbox One. Now it's the holy grail for measuring the worth and capabilities of a console. Anyways, before I even go off on a tangent, I'm gonna just leave the rest of that discussion for another video. But yeah, GPUs can be upgraded yearly if you're on a PC to improve the graphics of your games, while for many, the storage device is an afterthought and even just looked at as a device to just hold your games. But hot damn, are these SSDs sexy, and especially PS5's SSD looking like Noriko on the cover of Heavenly Sword? Pause. Awkward moment. Yeah, so there's a reason why both Microsoft and Sony have spent time talking about the SSDs and expandability features. And if you think about it, Mark Cerny said developers' #1 request for hardware was for them to have SSDs in it. And if you think about it, gamers may love the GPU and the teraflops number, but game developers are more impressed with components and specs like the CPU or memory allocation, for example, because it plays a crucial role in defining what next generation is going to mean for games. In more practical terms, games like The Crew or The Crew 2 would have been perfect games to be developed for the Xbox Series X and the PS5. See, like, the worlds could be larger, they could feel more alive with more traffic and pedestrians, and the cars could travel at higher speeds since the assets can be loaded in at significantly higher rates, to just name a few benefits. Now, Xbox fanboys, not the Xbox fans, because I mess with y'all, go grab a cup of cold water and sit by a pool to chill out if you're going to get heated from what I'm about to say. But it's really not that serious, and it's just factual information, like the Xbox Series X having a stronger GPU than the PS5. So with that said, I want to talk about why the PS5's SSD is groundbreaking and industry leading. First, it's more than just the SSD here, it's also the architecture and the implementation surrounding the SSD, which brings us to throughput, which is just a term used to describe the amount of data that gets transferred from the source, which is the SSD in this case, to the destination. Now, SSDs are crazy fast, but the data still needs to travel on pathways to get to the RAM and the GPU. The process has been a bottleneck for systems as there is a lot of friction on these pathways. This results in the theoretical speeds being reduced to much lower practical speeds, which are only a fraction of those theoretical speeds that you could have attained. Now, essentially what Sony did was remove the friction on these pathways to keep the data flowing at optimal speeds in very efficient ways. The best way to describe this for your Grandma Jones is to imagine that you have traffic traveling on a 4-lane highway, and then in the middle of that highway, those 4 lanes have to merge into 2 lanes. Now, the traffic is going to slow down and then become congested at that point. So you would have had smooth and fast flowing traffic until the merger, and depending on how many vehicles, aka processes, needed to get through, there could be a large congestion of vehicles waiting to get through. Now, one way to allow better flow of traffic is to establish certain rules to allow the traffic to flow better, such as giving each vehicle a priority number. So then they would have known if they should go in front or behind the next vehicle, instead of just waiting for the next empty space. This option allows for traffic to flow better, but it still needs to slow down at a certain point to allow the cars to merge into those 2 lanes. But what Sony has done here is break down those barriers at the merging point and just expanded those 2 lanes into 4 lanes for the remaining amount of that highway. So what this has done is prevent any slowdowns in the flow of traffic and just kept the fast speeds throughout the entire way. So if we're going to expand upon this analogy slightly, you can imagine having these 2 highways, one that has the merging lanes in the middle, and then the other highway that doesn't have the merging lanes at all. So if we go to the highway with the merging lane, imagine all the vehicles on there, they're all Bugattis. Next, on the highway without the merger, they're all Ferraris, which are fast in their own right, but come on, they're not as fast as Bugattis, right? So if the traffic starts at the same time on both of these highways, you're going to have the Bugattis be able to get to the halfway point much faster than the Ferraris are. But then the Ferraris are going to get to the end of the highway way faster than the Bugattis, which in this scenario is the RAM and the GPU, because they were able to maintain their max speed throughout the entire journey, unlike the Bugattis that had to slow down or stop in the congested traffic at that merger. This is just a simplification of how data works, but this is Toronto, and like in Toronto style, Grandma Jones needs to know what's going on. But I've also been hearing that, a lot of people have been trying to downplay the PS5's SSD and the IO architecture, and many times I don't think they really understand why it's such a big deal. Like, the Series X using the SSD is a big leap for game development, but the PS5 using its SSD and this implementation is just a bigger leap, just due to the way it's been implemented. And again, the same way the PS5's GPU is a big leap, Series X's GPU is just a bigger leap. These are just facts, but I won't get into the conversation of power means everything, because it doesn't. But it's also a factor. It's just not as big as people are making it out to be, especially as we start entering diminishing returns. Going into it would make this video much longer than I want this to be. So just at the end of the day, most games made by third-party developers are going to be designed with the lowest common denominator in mind. So I don't see them designing games taking full advantage of PS5's SSD. That's going to come down to the first-party games taking full advantage of the systems that they're being developed for, which is a major factor in deciding which console to buy. Why do you think Microsoft has such a huge focus on it right now, and Sony continues to do so? I can see third-party games using the bells and the whistles of the Series X's GPU to pump up gorgeous visuals with the extra ray tracing capabilities, as in they'd be able to trace more rays, but the PlayStation 5 can calculate fewer rays with longer distances to them. But I can also see third parties using the PS5's SSD to load in more high resolution textures and assets. And we got ourselves an amazing generation of consoles releasing later this year, guys. It's funny that these systems were looking to be very similar with their tech, but we have two different philosophy here at work, and it's exciting to see how everything's just going to play out. The 9th generation battle in the console wars should be a 12th round nail biter, unlike the first round knockout that we got with the PS4 and the Xbox One. So as always, let me know what you guys think. Did the highway traffic analogy make any sense to you? What game designs do you think we're going to be seeing from this gen because of the inclusion of SSDs in the Series X and PS5? Of course, let me know in the comments. And thank you for those who made it through to the end of this video. Please share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of the new videos that get uploaded. Every like is really appreciated as it does a lot in helping me grow this channel. I will have all the details on where you can follow and interact with everything Touronto in the description. That's everything for now, so it's not bye. See you later on the next one. And I'm out!